So, Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever had a big season last year. They had a huge season for the NBA, for the WNBA. Heck, they probably even improved the NBA with how much people cared about this team. This is a team that people really gravitated towards, and they're a team that a lot of people wanted to watch. Obviously, people came to watch Caitlin Clark, and a lot of people stayed for this Fever team. If the Fever weren't a likable team, if the Fever weren't a good team by the end of the year and a fun team to watch, they would have been, like, the Caitlin Clark hype would have died. But they were one of the most fun sports teams to watch. And once they started clicking, they were the most fun team in the WNBA to watch. But to see how much of an effect this team and realistically, specifically Caitlin Clark had in the WNBA, it's even bigger than I thought. But before we get on to what we are doing, Hoopsmas, we're playing 10 videos a day. Or not 10 videos, Jesus. This isn't the summer. We're uploading 5 videos a day. 5. Between now and Christmas. Today, there will only be 4 videos. I'm just extremely tired. I've had a long day and I'm not at home, so it's a little bit hard for me to make videos, but I will make up for it with 6 tomorrow. Actually, I put up at 6 yesterday. 1 just had to be taken down. I'll make up for it with 6 tomorrow, probably. But before we get on to that, though, we hit 39,400. We've already hit our sub goal, so not going for anything more. But this is mental. This is absolutely mental. The numbers are so staggering, they don't even seem real. But this, Caitlin Clark alone had a $36 million economic impact in Indy. $36 million. Now let's take a breath for a minute and think about this. That's for 1 year. We're talking about one player. So, if you have a few minutes, I recommend. By calculations, he's responsible for 26.5% of the league-wide activity. Total viewership due to Clark is up 300%, and 45% of broadcast value came from Fever games. And the league's merchandise sales went up 500%, with Clark number 1 followed by Reese number 2. Obviously, and look, anyone who says Angel Reese is not the second biggest draw in the WNBA is wrong about that. But that is mental. That is absolutely, absolutely mental. But when Indy Star asked Brewer to put a price tag on Caitlin Clark, what she meant financially, he ran the numbers. Then again, every single time he got the same results. The numbers are so staggering. By Brewer's calculation, Clark's responsible for 26.5% of the league-wide activity. That is mental, including attendance, merchandise sales, and TV. 1 of every 6 tickets sold can be attributed to Clark. Obviously not directly attributed to Clark, but a lot of them attributed to Clark. The regular season attendance, they averaged more than 17,000 fans. The first time a WNBA team has drawn 300,000 fans in a season. Her regular season games were watched by 1.2 million viewers on average, which is 199% more than, oh dear Lord, 200% more than non-Clark games. 200% more. Not double. 200% more. That's mental. That's like, if she has 1.5 million viewers on average, it means the others are getting 500. But perhaps most astonishing is the economic impact on Indianapolis, which Brewer says is upwards of $36 million. It's not as big as the NBA All-Star Game's $400 million financial boost to the city, but a respectable 10% of that. This is about one player, not the NBA All-Stars. Not the NBA All-Star Weekend. This is one player. This is one 22-year-old from Iowa, worth $36 million. And do you know how much? Do you know how much she got paid for that $36 million? She got paid $75,000. Is there any job in the world where somebody making that little money has made that much of an impact to a company or to a city? I don't think so. Let's take a breath for a minute. That's for 1 year. We're talking about one player. One player came to the league and it's slowly been growing, ignited a firestorm popularity. A player who was paid an initial salary of $76,000, a fraction of what she made for the league. A player whose male rookie counterpart made $13.8 million. 184 times more than Clark. And I mean this when I say this. Wemby generated less money for San Antonio than Caitlin Clark did for Indiana. And she got paid 180 times less. It would make a ton of sense for Indianapolis to lock her up long-term at $1 million a year. But the Fever and the WNBA can't just go out giving these deals, even if it's the market value for Caitlin Clark's playing worth to be. Lock her up long-term $1 million a year. Caitlin Clark's playing worth, I'm not joking when I say this, and I'm being completely honest, because all the money she generated for Indiana, all the money she generated for the Fever, all the money she has generated for the total cost of the franchise. Like, I reckon the Fever is probably worth 300 million right now. And I'm not joking with that. I think it's worth about 300 million with Herb Simon. And I genuinely think 30 million a year is being being conservative. I'd say 30 million a year. I think that's what she's worth. Said lock her up on $1 million a year long term. I think she's worth 30. Clark was never going to make LeBron James money. The WNBA doesn't want to continue to watch and wait. They want change to happen and change quickly. The problem is like everyone's talking about all these players making money. That is Hoopsmas. That is not the old picture of the Fever. Everyone's talking about the WNBA making money. And they're like, oh, we see the deals people are getting. It's like, or the TV deals and everything. But they don't realize the NBA the WNBA only owns 42% of the WNBA. So every single deal the WNBA gets, the WNBA itself only makes 42% of that. So you can already half what you would expect. Whatever deal you see coming in, you can cut it by 60%, and that's the amount of money that the WNBA actually receive. So people are like, oh, the WNBA want the same revenue split. It's like it is physically impossible for them to get the same revenue split as the NBA, because the NBA owns 100% of the NBA. So you can give the players 50% because you own 100%. The WNBA owns 42% of the WNBA. You cannot give players 50% of the revenue when the league only owns 42%. Even if you gave them 50% of what they owned, which brings it up to 21%, which is a lot bigger than I think the 15% or so there is now, that's the reality is the best they're going to get. The best they're going to get is it up to 20% because that is 50% of what the league owns. But either way for Clark, if there's a player that's worth 10 million in the W, it's Caitlin Clark. Even though we're probably, if you guys were looking anywhere, hearing that Caitlin Clark generated 30 million for the city of Indianapolis, I'm expecting an article in like 2 weeks about how Aja Wilson, is it 36 million they say Caitlin Clark got for Indiana? We're going to see an article that Aja Wilson generated 37 million for Las Vegas. But still, it is such an interesting thing to see. And I mean, the Indiana Fever are they're probably the one big time profitable organization in the entire WNBA. And it's, let's be real, entirely off the back of 22, getting the initial growth. And in fairness, the other players being extremely likable, that 100% helped as well. So anyway, see you guys in the next video.